Uh, this show was put together exactly 20 seconds ago. Here we are. Welcome.
Oh, wow. That's exciting.
Thank you, Melissa, for keeping it together for us as we are always last minute. So we've got a super exciting show today. We have Andy Molnar. I butchered his
Ew.
name on the last show, but I was criticized at least 75 times
I don't
in
think
direct
butchering
messages for
his
doing
name.
that.
That's not butchering his
I
name.
couldn't
That's
remember. It was
literally a
last minute.
different name.
I said like mohair or something. I said something. It was wrong. Whatever it was
Butchering
absolutely
that would
wrong.
be like it was like Andrew, and it was that's not or like Andrew or like something like that, like a different name, like a totally different name. That's not the same. It's fine. I'll
the
let you out of it.
the
I'll
point
let you out of it.
the point is it's fine now. It's fine now. But anyway, so we
It's
have
fine. I'll take
Andy
care of it.
from the Digital Therapeutics Alliance. He's going to be talking to us about some interesting stuff. We'll see whether or not we agree. I already gave away my bias. That's fine. And then we have return subject matter expert Dr. Natanya Wachtel Jones, who's going to be talking about psychedelics. So we are pumped. We also have our usual news show, which was put together 20 seconds before we went live. So we're here for that. And also, if no one saw it, Melissa Danino, right here, upper left. I don't know if it's upper left or upper right, depending on how people see it, but just did a podcast with Susan Clark yesterday for Michael Mann's Planetary Health First, Mars Next podcast on justice involved individuals and Medicaid and all kinds of things. So y'all should check it out. She's officially famous now.
Officially.
Also, yeah, so go watch it. We'll put it in the comments for tomorrow. Michael Mann, loyal follower, loyal fan. We're here for him. And he'll also be at Vive as well. So we also shout out.
Incredible.
No,
Wow.
we need 500. We need 500 more dollars.
We're so close though. Like we're way closer than we used to be. This is incredible. Yeah. Donate to
Agree. It's
Melissa's
way
Vimeo account.
closer than negative. It's way closer than negative dollars. Totally agree. We're doing great. We're like
Correct.
collecting way more money than I ever thought we would. So it's totally cool. But yeah, you can access our tip jar on the healthtechtalkshow.com. No big deal. We could buy some wine soon. I don't even know. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, Lisa, how was your week?
It's been a little rough. We had a lot of work to do leading up to our live appearances at Vive and all kinds of stuff. You and I are headed to DC from various corners of the world, so prepping for that. Have I packed? Am I leaving tomorrow very soon? Yes. No, I have not packed, and yes, I am leaving very soon. So it's a little chaotic around here. Lots of work to do. Other than that, just like prep. Like amazed. We have an incredible setup happening for Vive in a few weeks here in LA. I mean,
Is it
we are getting
incredible? We don't even know.
no, we are getting so many interesting people
Oh,
reaching out to be on the talk show. I am amazed. No, I have no the setup, like the actual technology. No,
we
it
don't
is
know how
not.
that's
We
going to
will
work
see.
yet.
We don't know. We don't know how it's going to work yet. I have an iPhone. I feel like that'll be good enough. If we can't figure anything else out, we will make it work.
We got it.
We are a very professional show,
Yeah, my children
obviously.
have set up our camera and told me that it works. So I feel like, we'll figure it out. We got Melissa.
Perfect.
I'm sure there are going to be
Perfect.
lots of people in the press area who know how to use video equipment. So I'm sure we'll
Totally.
be able to flounder
if
our
you
way
are a
through it. I'm
real
not.
journalist, if you're a real journalist, maybe you can help us. Great. It's gonna be wonderful. We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It's fine. We don't
we
prep.
should we should probably give a preview. We're gonna get the CEO of AMA. We got Sindhu from Salesforce. We got lots of interesting people coming up. The guy from ZocDoc. We'll see what he's going to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we've got a good lineup. It's going to be a lot of fun, and then we're going to be covering our favorite sessions, and then our post show will also be about our favorite parties and sessions, just like last time for health. So big time.
The audience took us seriously and reached out to be on the Health Tech Talk show at Vive. We meant
Yeah,
it, but like we also weren't sure we meant it as much as we meant it, and we have not been disappointed,
we like meant
basically.
it. We meant it.
Thanks, guys.
But but we have some updates in here on we have our favorite pitch so far that's actually good. Not We're not making fun of them. Actual good pitch at the end here. So here's the news of the week. So I feel like there's been like all this trash talking about apps in
Yeah.
general lately, and like this week was no exception. So this one is about like basically mental health apps make everybody sicker and worse. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, like here's what I'll say. Like everyone needs therapy. I believe that truly. And also, there's no way everyone can get one-to-one talk therapy. It's just there aren't enough people in the world, there isn't enough money in the world. I understand the impetus to say, like, we should be able to deliver it via an app, but this stuff is super hard. I mean, there have been all kinds of issues around the way that these apps work in sort of just digital health in general. I'm sure that one of our guests has something to say about that. You know, in terms of like how they treat the people who work there. What happens when you have like a service and they've employed or have a contract with a therapist and they fire them or vice versa? What do you do, right? There's so many issues, and it's a really concerning space. I'm concerned about it. I don't think it's the right solution. I don't know what the solution is. I know that people need help with mental and behavioral issues for sure.
Yeah, I just talked to an interesting startup. I was thinking about this article when I talked to them, and they essentially are doing like triage, and they're doing it in a single payer system market, right? Where that they actually want to be able to triage people effectively, as opposed to just a fee for service environment.
Weird.
Um,
I don't get that.
well, yeah, it's
Sure.
totally weird, but it was
Sounds like
interesting. It was an
socialism,
AI.
Cat.
I, you know,
Sounds like socialism.
so as many people don't know, Lisa, but you know, and I often say, despite being slightly right of center, I am actually pro single payer. I know, I know we have
Amazing.
to bring out the big labor talk. I don't know,
Amazing.
but it was a really interesting tool because it basically said like, hey, this person does not need an app. Like they need to go directly like wherever they need to go. Or hey, this person, yeah, they might actually benefit from using a digital tool. And I was like, that's useful, but not really useful in the great United States of America at this point. But I was into it. So yeah, maybe we'll hear from our special
Yeah,
guest later on all that stuff. This is just
totally.
more, you know, I think we just need to keep
This is you just
talking about,
dunking on Medicare
I mean,
Advantage. You love, hates Medicare Advantage. Everyone, please comment in the chat how wrong you think it is that Cat hates Medicare Advantage. Please tell us more about how bad we are. We don't.
you know, again, I'm anti-aggressive marketing practices for Medicare Advantage, but just saying, it's still, you know, it's still hard. And then this is something that
Yes.
I think you and Tom said. Anyway,
This
we
one
just have
freaking
listen. We
killed
know a lot
me.
of great
Oh my
people
God.
at McKinsey,
Oh my
but
God.
we just need the trash talk, right? This is fantastic. I think I don't really know EY. I don't know their how good they are or not, but I do feel like someone from EY probably made this graphic, and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
God bless
Yeah.
consulting.
Yeah. Yeah.
God bless management
Yikes.
consultants. All right, all right. Oh, and this is big time. So we have a couple of
Yay.
SUD. Yeah,
It's a
so
big
like we've been
deal.
waiting for this freaking rule to be to final
Big deal.
like for like a year and a half. I don't even remember. It's been
Year
so long.
more than a year for sure. It's been quite some time. This is the finalizing the sort of updates to how we deal with data information sharing for substance use and behavioral health issues under the uh, oft ignored agency SAMHSA. And this is really just like it says here, like aligning those rules for how we share information about substance use disorder with other ways we deal with health information under HIPAA. And these things have been asked for so long. This one was like so wonky, Cat. Honestly, it's like the details were like painful, right? When you were actually in the weeds trying to sort of comment and deal with the alignment, you know? I feel like this is my soapbox, as you know, about, here we are. Oh my God, wait a minute. Are we talking about regulations again? This is incredible. I love them. I love
I'm
details
ready.
about regulation. Okay, so a law then becomes a regulation because the agency goes back and they go, wait a minute, like, what did this law actually say? And could we reinterpret it based on what's happening today? Why, yes, we can. And that's what they did. But you know what? Like sometimes those laws get real stale. And the problem is, no offense to our representatives in Congress, last year's Congress was the least productive Congress like ever. Like they passed barely any laws. They could just pass some more laws. And then the regulations would be easier and not take years of like going back and forth over like a tiny, like a comma, like an and versus an or whatever it is, right? So, they did a good job. I appreciate SAMHSA working hard on this, but like they could have just like had a better law from Congress. Just an idea. I don't know.
I mean,
Crazy.
there are lots of things that could be done better. Lots of things, I guess. But overall, okay. So I will say I appreciate this this update, this record sharing alignment rule. I'm totally into it because I love behavioral health. And also, my team just wrote this amazing article about
Yay!
opioid use disorder and aligning systems and all that. So, like, shameless plug here. I had 1 million co-authors on this, including many of our friends, Casey Claiborne, Katie McCormick, George Gooch. What, George Gooch,
George
loyal follower
Gooch.
of the show. And then
He is.
Nora Cox, everybody's best friend, the shadow governor of Texas. And what we're
Yeah.
saying here is like, I mean, this is a problem, right? Because a lot of the recommendations that have previously been rolled out to states were based on like old timey data sharing rules. And so the recommendations were like, build more siloed systems specific to OUD because we have no other options. Um, and honestly, so I wrote an email to Mickey Tripathi on Wednesday, Lisa, like I told you, and I was like, hey,
Said,
if
I'm
TEFCA's
coming
really
for you. No, no.
no, it was,
Watch
listen,
your back, Vicky.
he's a great guy. I didn't say that, but I was like, hey, can you make TEFCA work for SUD? Blah blah blah. I'll be into it if you do. Like essentially that's what it said. He right back. I don't know, but like, but their problems still persist, right? Like even though we can share all this data
Wow.
theoretically, you know, like all this stuff is still so siloed, and it's like, you know, it's like when at my freaking company I have to like log into Asana separately from Slack and all this shit, right? Like it's just not useful, and it's really difficult to get this data still. And so we are hoping this article is an overview of some broader to be published recommendations on how the states can use opioid settlement funding to develop health
Right.
IT infrastructure that we can actually like use to measure effectiveness and like, you know, target hotspots and stuff. But yeah, we have a long way to go. It's still
Well,
really
but the reason
depressing.
for this, right, is also the reason for this probably is your next. I have not seen it. I don't even know.
I never know what's
You
next.
know, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do this? Because behavioral health generally was left out of all of the EHR incentive programs, out of health IT development, and this has been a continued process. Like so many people over the years now, including you know, ultimate friend of the show, Tom Novak, who's been working on this idea for a long time. Like, how can we get actual investments in health IT for behavioral health and opioid and generally substance use disorder and all of these things that continue to be incredibly critical issues across the nation's public health, you know, outcomes, infrastructure, the way people are actually living, what's affecting longevity and what do you call it? Like health, not health longevity. Just forgot. My brain is
Oh,
totally
that's the
empty.
word you use. I forget, but I know
Health
what you mean. It's
span,
like
health span,
basically,
lifespan,
yeah,
health span, lifespan,
health
health span.
span,
Yes,
health span.
health
Yeah, yeah,
span.
yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, no, yeah. And shout out to Tom Novak too. ONC just announced a big behavioral health program that they're working on with SAMHSA that the Incentive team is a subcontractor on. But the Great
Right.
Chickasaw Nation Industries is the lead on that, so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool project,
Well,
and hopefully,
it's a fraction of the cost. It's a fraction of the money that should be spent on this issue, given how important it is to the overall health outcomes in our country. Right. So
well,
good,
you
but like
freaking tell them,
do
Lisa.
more,
I'm here for it. I'm
do
here
more,
for it.
do better, do better.
Yeah, do add more zeros. Add more zeros.
Ooh,
But yeah,
we have
so
a
but the other
really
thing
spicy
is,
question. Yeah, we have a really spicy
oh my god,
question
I'm not even
from
reading
Chris
them.
Lama, who is a Medicaid master. He is amazing. He does really great work. And he asked a spicy question, but do states actually want to measure the effectiveness of substance use disorder treatment and behavioral health? That is a good question. And it can be not a great picture for some states.
Well, yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, I deal with a lot of like people on the ground, and they're like, absolutely, we want all these things. And then unfortunately, so what is a state, right? Are we talking about the Medicaid agency? Are we talking about the legislature? Are we like, what are we talking about?
Right,
My
right.
experience, and Chris, I'd be interested in your thoughts. And also, shout out, we love Medicaid Matters. Awesome.
Yeah, so
Clay,
good.
we're going to have that guy in the show. And he
Yeah,
also runs an exceptional content delivery system that we'll talk about later. But
sure does.
my experience is that the legislators are typically the ones where we have barriers to adoption and barriers to doing more. I'm not actually going to say the states that I'm thinking of because I'm actively working in them, and I would like to not to be derailed. But yeah, like we'll get
Interesting.
so far in putting together some amazing programs to help people who are really struggling, and then we get some, you know, state senator who's like, it's
No.
just because they're weak. They're just weak. Never mind
Right.
that the first time they
Personal
got shut up was when they were
responsibility.
9 by
Right,
their
right,
parents
right,
who were
right,
also
right,
addicted.
right.
Like, Jesus Christ, God Almighty, I can't fucking with it.
Try
Anyway,
harder. No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I would be interested in Chris's
totally.
legitimate thoughts on what he means by state and like what all that means. But that's a really good question and a really good point. Like, not everyone cares. Not everyone believes that this population deserves help, unfortunately. So,
Yeah. Chris, come on the
no
show
one
with
can
us.
read this. No one can read this.
I can read it.
But this is
What do you mean?
us highlighting our most well written and well delivered pitch for the Health Tech Talk Show at Vive. You can't read it.
Mm,
But first of all, I would like to say this guy, Joshua from AMA, first of all, he followed all the instructions. No one follows our instructions. Like, we have emails to like all of our different
do
email
not
addresses.
DM us. Don't DM us. No DMs.
Someone Twitter DM'd me. We don't even have a talk show
No,
Twitter
no,
account or X
no,
account, whatever.
no,
It's
no.
crazy. So this guy, and you can't read it, whatever, but it's a great pitch. And he actually watched our show, made a reference to some joke that we made on a show about our shitty video equipment,
Stupid ass
and then
joke, but
like
it was great.
said that we're cool, like all the things, and then offered us actually a very good source. So this guy, Joshua from AMA,
Give him
we
a
think you're great.
promotion. Give Josh a promotion. He did
He
great.
probably
He's
needs a raise.
perfect for that job.
Yeah,
Yeah, give him a raise. I
$500,000.
agree.
Best pitch, best
Totally.
pitch. So great job following instructions. Yeah, and then lately I've been. I feel like we're about to enter into like the propaganda zone, Lisa, which, as you know, is
Nice.
my number
Nice.
one fear for America. And this is Behemoth
Yeah, yeah.
from The Master and Margarita, who, like, my husband's rereading this book, and like he's been talking a lot about Behemoth and the Devil's Retinue, and I'm
Nice.
just like, man,
Nice.
what an amazing piece of literature. And also, we kind of got some stuff going on with like drama and excitement. So while we leave up this picture of Behemoth and transition into our next couple of guests, do you
Listen,
have anything else you want to talk about?
I even though Kat has called me a at best a democratic socialist, at worst a communist on the show, I am actually not a very good partisan because I honestly I am in the phase right now of the election cycle where I hate everyone who's involved in politics and I wish they would all go away. So that's where I am right now. I don't know if that makes me probably an anarcho-capitalist or something like that. So here we are. It's gonna get rough, everyone. Stay focused, please stay focused on like what actually matters. You're going to hear a bunch of nonsense about, politics and parties and things we can do and can't do. Like we need to all stay focused on actually making healthcare better for people, like cutting down on profiteering and actually making improvements. So like ignore it if you can, like block everyone's name and all of your like in your like news apps and stuff like that. Like don't turn on the TV. Nothing good happens there. Just stay focused. We can do it. We'll make it through.
Good uppance there.
Cat will
And if
regardless of
things
the
get
outcome.
if things get really bad, there's always vodka and cigars. So
Yeah.
with that, we are gonna transition to our first guest. We are very excited to
Wait,
welcome Andy
I also
Molnar.
have a this is the other way out, baby. My Irish passport. See you later.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Lisa, stop it! Not all of us can be dual citizens. It's like
I
a
know.
problem. Although I hear I
I'm
could be a
not
Polish
leaving. I'm
citizen.
gonna stay. Yeah.
Anyway,
Hi, Andy.
here is Andy, CEO of the Digital Therapeutics Alliance. I don't know if Hazel prepped you on what was going to happen here and how ridiculous this was going to be, but we are delighted to have you.
There's no prep.
Thank you.
No
I
prep.
Yeah.
appreciate being here.
We are.
Yeah. And I feel like, you were giving me a therapy session because my family is visiting this weekend. So you're like, don't talk politics, stay
Nice.
away from politics. And
Do not.
yeah. So thank you.
Don't
Thank
do
you.
it. Well, Andy, introduce yourself for real and tell
Yeah,
us what a digital therapeutic even is.
okay. So thank you, Andy Molnar, CEO of the Digital Therapeutics Alliance. I've been the CEO here for 2.5 years. I actually got into digital therapeutics at Pear, working on their market access team. When they did the partnership with Sanofi, there was really not a lot of, not Sanofi, Sandoz. There was not a lot of market access work to be done. So I went over to Cognoa, where we focused on the using machine learning to diagnose kids with autism spectrum disorder and therapy in that space. What I realized was I was focusing more on how do you e-prescribe apps, what's happening with the government, things that really matter for driving the whole industry forward. So DTA was like my clear home and where I wanted to be. And now you're going to have to kick me out. If anybody wants me to leave, I'm not leaving. So a digital therapeutic.
Okay.
So digital therapeutic, I think, and this comes back to really that mental health thing that you put up, right? There are hundreds of thousands of mobile health apps that are terrible, right? Um, Probably 10, 15, around 2010, 2011, people started saying, if we're going to start treating disease through software as a medical device or through software in general, we have to clinically validate it. We have to ensure that patients who are using this and payers who are paying for this know that this product works, that this is an intervention that actually helps a patient, helps a human, not something that somebody decided to put together because they think that they can put a mental health product together better than somebody else. And so with that, in 2017, the Digital Therapeutics Alliance came together to say, now we need standards. Now we need to agree upon what makes clinical evidence rigorous. What pathways do we use to get these in the hands of patients? And wide variety. Employers, a lot of people access digital therapeutics through their employer benefits. There are some that are direct to consumer, and then there are some that are going through rigorous pathways with the FDA that are prescription products, non-prescription products, etc. They treat everything from insomnia to symptoms along with cancer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Into it.
And the reimbursement pathways also they're different, and they're different approaches, right? So some who are pursuing that sort of like digital medicine approach, Andy, are like going for like reimbursement codes even at times. And then others are thinking about a more general, if not B2C, our favorite B2B2C, and they're part of some kind of like employer program or part of some value-based care program and seeking kind of a population level reimbursement or an outcomes level reimbursement versus that like I am medicine, and like I will seek a CMS billing code. I will go to the home of CMS and seek a specific billing code for my beautiful app, which happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are products connected with medical devices. There are products connected
Right.
with inhalers, for example. Propeller is a great example of that. So it comes in all shapes and sizes, virtual reality. And as soon as I think I've seen it all, another company pops up with some incredibly smart, innovative mind who has it falls under the category of digital therapeutics that I just never imagined.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's an exciting new frontier. So, Andy, we're gathered here today in part because Health Affairs published this piece of work,
Hit piece.
basically
Hit piece.
trashing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hit piece, trashing digital therapeutics, and you and your team published a very nice rebuttal, I thought, if I could say so myself, kind of outlining why it was kind of like it was like fake news.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Tell us about the things. And everybody knows I am biased. I love digital therapeutics.
Thank you. I'm a little biased too, but I'm okay with opinion pieces, right? If you call it an opinion piece, I'm okay with it, right? If someone comes out and says, I don't like digital therapeutics, I like to go to the doctor. Okay, that's okay. Some people, going to the doctor is perfect, right? That's not going away. But some people, and a lot of people need digital therapeutics. Access to providers is difficult, right? Again, mental health, access to mental health providers is difficult. I don't know if you've ever tried to get treatment for insomnia outside of Ambien and Lunesta, but finding a provider that actually delivers cognitive behavioral therapy, I don't know where they are. They're probably managing CPAP machines, which is really important as well. But there's not enough time to sit down and deliver cognitive behavioral therapy. So what I'd like to do is start off by just reading the title of this piece.
Oh,
okay.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Here's how it starts. Studies of prescription digital therapeutics often lack rigor and inclusivity. Okay, now I'm just going to read one part and then we can jump off. This is the data that they found to support that thesis. Okay.
Ooh.
90, this is in their own article. Okay. 90% of prescription digital therapeutics have a randomized clinical trial. 60% were blinded. 100% met a clinical primary endpoint, and 75% of them have multi-center studies. Okay. And the outcome of that piece is, let me put a title together that says these products do not have rigor in their clinical trials and lack diversity. When then,
Mm.
yeah. So for me, this is bad because
You're
it's health
saying your
affairs.
own data. You're saying health affairs. Your own data refutes the conclusion of your piece.
Yeah.
Basically, is
And
what you're saying.
how,
That's
yeah,
your thesis here. Got it.
yeah. And how many people get past the title?
Yeah, not many. Well,
Well,
especially
you
if it's
just saw
paywalled, by the way.
all of
Especially
our
if
news,
it's paywalled. Yeah,
Yeah.
which
we are
it
just
is,
title.
which
We're
it is.
title people. We are title people. Yeah.
Yeah, our whole show is titles.
Yeah. 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 So I'm done. That's all I have to say. It's
Got
clearly
it.
an
That
opinion
was a
piece.
great rebuttal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. But how do you say this is an educational research piece? And I did call up the authors. And they were not on the record, so I won't talk about what they actually said. But this was supposed to be an educational piece. Okay. So
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay.
it's not. It's not.
Well, I have some feelings here that I'll just state in general. So, Lisa and I both work with a lot of underserved communities, and I do a ton of work in rural America. And in many cases, digital therapeutics are the only option that people have other than taking an airplane, right, to Anchorage to receive care. And that's just frankly not going to happen. Rural Midwest states, entire massive regions just don't have access. And I recognize, like, if you are in an acute situation, absolutely, you need to see a physician. But for like what you're talking about here, insomnia, behavioral health, being able to access certain therapy
Right.
tools,
Right.
absolutely. Like, and so while I appreciate people calling out things that don't work or concerns, I absolutely do. I also think there's real damage and it causes real inequity when someone just puts out a hit piece because it's going to be fun press. And as a former PR girl, Lisa and I both PR girls over here, that's fun to do and easy, but it causes real damage. So, again, I'm biased here, but at least I'm interested in what you think about this.
Well, I mean, I would just say as well, Andy, what you said previously, every day something new is coming out. I had reconnected with a friend from many years ago, a couple of days ago here in the Bay Area, and she was telling me about having a really serious brain injury and how, brain injury treatment is like impossible to get when you live in San Francisco, right? Like even then it's very difficult. These things are slow. There's all kinds of protocols and fancy devices. Well, I mean, as dumb as it is, like we're starting to have like semi-accessible VR devices that can do those things. That should become, you could see a path towards real digital therapeutics there. And you don't just get a brain injury if you live in San Francisco. You get a brain injury wherever you live and doing all kinds of different types of work in all kinds of different situations. And so I just would just double down on what you just said, Kat. I think it is critical that we figure this out. Is there a bunch of trash out there? Yes. And some of those apps have been on my phone before. Should there be higher standards for payment and for access for all kinds of people? Yes, absolutely. But like we cannot afford to imperil the development of digital therapeutics. We have a critical need across the country. This country has, as we have talked about many times, like incredibly poorly distributed health outcomes, right? Like part of the country, certain segments of the population, usually the whiter, usually the richer, have incredible health outcomes, and everyone else has terrible freaking health outcomes. And so, I just don't know how we can. It has to be part of the solution, right? What is the other solution?
Right.
I
And
don't see it.
while we're doing all this work on Capitol Hill to move things forward and you know help people understand the patient journey and how painful it currently is in our healthcare
Right.
system, a piece like this goes around Capitol
Health
Hill.
affairs. I've
Yeah,
been published in health affairs. We love it. Fancy. Very nice to have next to our name. Like very, burnishes our credentials. Enjoy. But like, I think like, and it's okay if you have something that is very legitimate to say here, like you're backing it up with evidence, or like you said, if it's like opinion piece, like I don't like digital therapy, fine.
yeah. I
We're
do want to
making
bring
your
up.
case. We should be fighting against you. We hate it.
I know.
They
I
suck. Digital
appreciate it.
therapeutics are bad.
Yeah, and I want to say something else here too, because the importance of what they're trying to say, or the importance of going against what they're trying to say, basically, and how
Right.
damaging it
Right.
is they were trying to compare us, meaning the digital therapeutics industry, to drugs, And so there was a lot of talk around pre-market approval pathways. And that's one of
Right.
the most rigorous pathways that you can take with the FDA, and it's meant for very high risk products.
Right.
And just that no digital therapeutic has gone through that pathway, and
Mm.
as far as I can tell, that's true. But that's also because there's no need to go through that pathway. You work with the FDA to figure out which pathway you should go through. And if we were drugs, like if we were a
Not
GLP
even like
one,
the smart pills or whatever that are like, are those do they count as digital therapeutics? Like the smart pills that you swallow or whatever? Like that
that's
seems
a
like
good
they would have
question.
gone through that pathway, no?
They were not included in this study.
Got
But
it.
if we were,
Okay.
say, like a GLP-1, then we
Hmm.
would have basically national access or universal access already, with
Right.
no
Right.
understanding of what the long-term damage could be. And we're just now finding
Now,
out
now,
that
now you're just pandering to Kat. Come on, Andy. You're pandering to Kat on that one. That's not fair. That was a
oh,
plant to make her be on your side, and it's working. Look at her face.
no, we did no prep. That was the whole thing.
There was no prep. There was no prep. There was no prep. But I'm not even gonna we will cut into our psychedelic segment if we talk about GLP-1. So we'll just skip that part. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting going
Point taken.
through your rebuttal.
Point taken.
And I did get access to the full Health Affairs article, and this is maybe the most prep I've ever done for a show. So everybody be impressed here. But it was interesting too, kind of the line drawn, how they were saying like they lack rigor. They're not going through like these massive clearance processes. They're not, no 510K, all this stuff, and then you saying, well, they don't have to. Why would they? They don't have to. And then I was thinking, I previously did a lot of work with LDTs and CLIA and all that, and there was the same criticism. Unfortunately, we had companies like Theranos that, kind of ruined it for a lot of people. And I think that still overshadowed a lot of really great things happening in the space. Like I love that I can access tests that tell me things that my doctors are not willing to dive into. Or, I mean, I have a whole story about that, right? Like basically diagnosed myself and cured myself from all these things because those LDTs were accessible and they didn't have to go through massive amounts of clearance. And as a consumer, I could buy them. So I do think there's an access problem here. Same thing with we talk a lot about these longevity solutions often on the show too. There's access problems and there's inequity in how people can access them depending on how they are cleared, right? So, what do you think about that? Like, is this like can we make this an equity issue? I'm here for it if we can.
I
I
I
think we
think that's
have.
one of the yeah
Ah,
yeah. I think that's
We're
one of the
pro.
biggest. Yeah, I mean, get mental. Yeah, put me in front of a mental health provider if I have anxiety or depression. How long is that going to take? Right?
Yeah.
It's
A while.
generally, BetterHelp has at least made it easy for you to get matched up to somebody to talk to somebody. Obviously not digital therapeutic for people who don't know what digital help is. It's a connector to a therapist when you have some sort of mental health issue, and it could be anything basically. But if you go through the general pathways, most therapists don't have time. They're already completely booked.
yeah.
Especially after coming out of COVID, everybody needed a therapist, and we're just not going to have enough. We're never going to have enough therapists. We're never going to have enough doctors, and we need something else. And that something else is in part digital therapeutics, which can make a huge impact on patients' lives. And for things like this to come out, it just negates the progress that's taking place. And it's just disappointing, and it really bothers me. I think things like, oh, there's age restrictions on the clinical trials. That was in the piece as well, right?
Yeah, there's reasons for that, by the way, also.
Yeah,
Like there's legit reasons for that. Like I think that's a very fraught area that needs a lot of careful consideration.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
languages in these products start in English. I know, but the German products all start in German, and the Japanese products all start in Japanese. Like cognitive behavioral therapy has to be localized to an extent. So if you were going to just pop it out there in every language, you would actually do damage. So we can't do that. So again, like a lot of the things they were saying that were against our industry are actually us moving the industry forward and in the only viable way possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not gonna be right. Like digital therapeutics will not solve like all the ills of the healthcare industry and the health sector in the US, of course. Like it's not gonna, I don't think anyone is saying that like this is our silver bullet. But like definitely very likely going to be a really important part of how we move forward.
Yeah, it's another tool. We have a screwed up healthcare system. A lot of patients have to navigate their own journey, and this is another option. Like I think that's how I see it. And like why be a dick about it so that you can get an article in Health Affairs? Also, shame on you, Health Affairs. WTF? What the
Oh,
heck?
but they
What the
published me
heck?
2 times. Come on, Kat. Come on, be
Yeah, well,
nice.
Lisa, that's
Tell them to
different.
publish me again. I'll
Obviously,
write
I
something
don't even
nice.
know these other people. Lisa, come on.
I
Oh my
know.
God.
Ugh.
We also. So one more comment from our crowd here, and then Andy, we're going to give you your last words before we switch to psychedelics. Nadine Peaver says that this is actually not all about rural populations. She is absolutely right that even in very dense urban centers, these problems with access exist with not only transportation but plenty of other reasons. So that is an important note. Yeah. All right, Andy. What else you got? What else you got for our people?
Yeah, so I guess I would leave it with, Health Affairs in a way. It was, thank you for bringing up all these things that people may have been thinking that now we can come out and say why it's wrong. But at the same time, clinical evidence is incredibly important in the healthcare system. We are here if people have recommendations for how to improve it. It's everything from the health economics to the real world evidence.
Yeah.
It needs to be better across the board.
Mhm.
So don't get me wrong, we
Mhm.
support that, and we look at digital therapeutics as a major part of our healthcare in God interventions. Excuse me, interventions that will change the way we deliver healthcare using technology over the next 5, 10 years and thousands of years that the human race exists. So let's get there together. We're not against nice or constructive feedback and constructive criticism, but
Constructive
this
criticism, feedback. Yep, yep.
yeah, this just does damage to an industry that is actually like changing healthcare and doing it in a really great and different way.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, they're
Well,
lucky to
God
have
bless
you
America's
here. We
innovators.
love it.
Right.
We
Yeah,
love it.
we're into it.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks,
We're into it.
guys. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Andy. All right, and we're gonna have a quick palate cleanser with Behemoth as we transition from our propaganda discussion into Natanya. Natanya, welcome back to the
Natalia!
show.
Back. Back in action.
Back. She's back. Natanya's like all over LinkedIn. Natanya is
Hi.
always doing business on LinkedIn.
Like you have a halo, which is kind of appropriate for this segment, I feel like. So go for it.
Yeah, yeah. As everybody knows, at least Lisa knows, Natanya can break through the veil. The veil is thin, and
Right.
the halo is appropriate. Yeah. So Natanya, reintroduce yourself. We have like at least
We're
12 more
going there.
followers since last time you were on the show. So tell us all about yourself, and then let's just like go into it. There's some awesome stuff going on in your world.
Thank you. Well, I'll keep my bit short, but basically, because why psychedelics and the health tech talk show is because I just ask for random things and Kat obliges me, and thank you, Lisa, as well. I was chomping at the bit on the last conversation, obviously, because I'm often speaking about mental wellness, betterment. I have an app for mental health, all that. So I have a lot of feelings there, and they align to a lot of what you guys say. And I think that some of the challenges are we're making mass sweeping generalizations. We're throwing things into buckets that are,
Right.
asymptomatic or completely, it's just like it's a banana. So I'm going to just say that was interesting, but I'll segue into in my professional journey, right? I've always if you don't know me, I've woven integrative wellness, right, with insights in customer and behavioral science with tech, right? And that's always been fun to form fledgling ideas into like a household name. But basically, I think the reason I'm all excited and thank you to talk again about psychedelics is I think we're on the verge of a really profound shift as a species, but care system. And something really that I wasn't
Uh-oh.
gonna ask, just from the time that you posted that I said I was gonna be talking about this, some people reached out to me and they specifically
I
said
think,
that they
oh,
didn't make a comment on LinkedIn because they were concerned about what people thought, because they wanted to ask me a
Hmm.
question. And I thought that was really interesting because it's part of why I was hesitant to say I was interested in this field, because people will think you're into drugs. until someone was like, yeah, you've been selling drugs for 20 years. What's the difference? Because you put it in this category or that category. And, I've still openly not even experienced personally a medical dose. This is my true connection through research and studies and data and speaking with people and doing ethnographies and connecting with folks and them talking about their experience that, opened up my mind to a new way of approaching healing. So I want to say that's my point, I guess, and to kind of demystify and shine a light on the criminalized.
Oh,
I think
Natanya,
we're having
your
some.
audio.
Hey, Natanya, you're cutting in and out, bud.
I wanted to talk about 3 things, if you guys are cool with that.
Oh, totally. But your audio is cutting in and out.
Psychedelics are Schedule 1 drug and what that means real quick.
Can you hear us, Natanya?
Sounds like a no.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Your audio is cutting out really badly. You might want to turn off your video. Try that.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Fancy.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us your 3 things. We'll just look at this N for Natanya. I feel like it's very.
That's all you need. That's all you need. My face is everywhere. All right. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there. But okay. Why psychedelics are currently a Schedule 1 drug and what that means. What some of the excitement is in the space and in terms of advancements and some of the new trials and what their goals are. Right. So that's what I was going to do, if that's cool.
Yeah. No, please do. Please do.
All righty. Okay. So I know your audience is pretty well versed in all the rules of everything healthcare, but just really quickly, psychedelics are in the same category. This is like a colloquial way to put it, right? As substances that don't even RSVP to the party of medical potential. Right. So I think there's time. Right.
Can someone write that down?
That's incredible. This is being recorded. It's fine. We'll get it done later. We're on it.
This is an Natanyaism. I just made that up right now. So, but I think there's, you know what I mean? We got to revise this guest list. Okay. Schedule 1 says that a substance on that list, right, has a high potential for abuse, lacks any accepted medical use, and aren't safe for use, even under medical supervision. So I call bullshit because, can I say that? Well, I said it.
Yeah. Obviously, you could say bullshit.
There's heaps of research globally and in the US. There's, I don't know, thousands of years of ancestral and ceremonial use that challenge that, 100%, right? There's data that highlights therapeutic benefits. Yes, very much so in mental health, but in many other areas as well. Longevity, just basic neurogenesis, gut health. And this is there's a lot of debate on this reclassification and the legal reform. So that's why I'm trying to put it into the conservative land. And I don't mean politically conservative. I just mean, it's illegal. And we're talking usually not about that kind of stuff here, but that we're on the cusp. And it really seems cruel to keep people away from these treatments that are really showing to help people. And one of the most exciting studies, and that's what a few people reached out about, is some of the work that MAPS is doing with the vets. And so again, I'm not sure if everyone on your team or in your audience knows.
Tell us.
MAPS is, and MAPS is the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. And MAPS is a research and educational organization, and it develops medical, legal, and cultural context for people to benefit from these compounds, right? With, appropriate guidance and interventions and alongside clinical, support. So basically.
And Natanya, on that front, MAPS actually is reorganizing their organization. They've created a company called Lycos Therapeutics, moving into this health tech, digital therapeutic kind of space.
You stole my thunder. That was kind of it. So we're
sorry.
No, but that's exactly right. So we're talking about going from the woo-woo into we're all in the same space. We're all in this space. And that was really
Exactly.
my point. Exactly right. Thank you, Lisa. That's really why. And so, they've been doing lots of research with all the sort of clinical endpoints that everyone in peer-reviewed, studies say this is legit. So luckily we're getting some respect, honestly, some approval, some traction and some movement, and some stigma and bias that I think needed to come down because of being lumped in. And I'll talk about that in a minute with sort of like party time.
Yeah.
That just made the party reference. So, they're the pioneers. I'm a wannabe pioneer in this space, trying to, a lot of a slang, not slang, a saying they have is be the bridge. And that's, I thought, a really great way to look at, for me anyway, bridging sort of everything I knew from traditional pharma and life sciences world, innovation, medical devices and digital therapeutics, big data, all of that, and sort of new treatments that we hadn't really thought about before. So anyway, there's a little background as well because of Schedule 1. Again, there's some stigma, and I had mentioned that, right? So the regulatory decisions that are based on this like limited understanding of what a compound is for. And I look at it like this too, and I don't know if this is another write it down, but I've said to people like, so are these drugs good or bad, right? I said, is fire good or bad? And they were like looking at me. I'm like, right? I mean, fire, it's a tool. All of these compounds are tools. So it's how you use it. You respect it. It has with great power comes great responsibility. Any cliche you want, insert it here. But it all fits because it says there's no science around it, but it's a misconception and it's all anecdotal. And it was, a time when people were freaking out about and starting the war on drugs. So it's really time to kind of relook at this. And the US
Right.
in particular is a little behind the eight ball. Some other countries, our neighbors right in Canada, are looking at those, they're making real protocols and how to integrate these
Right.
compounds into real healing.
Yeah. Natanya, try to come back on video.
Okay.
We miss your beautiful face and your halo. There we go. Yeah, so that's awesome, and I know there's been a lot of discussions coming out of the VA, which seems like it makes it like very much legitimizes this movement.
There's work
Can you talk to
happening
us?
now. There are actual trials and programs that are happening now, and it's starting to expand, right? I mean, I think that's a promising sign.
Yeah. What do you think?
But there's there's a little bit of a catch-22. So we need research to change the laws, but the laws give it the research.
Oh, we're
You're
losing
gonna
you
have to go
again.
off video. Yeah, you got to go off
The
The
video
internet,
again.
Listen.
the
Sorry.
internet, the
Sorry.
internet hates psychedelics. That's all I can say.
Someone's got
We
to
have to
take
go
a
off,
risk. Have something that grows out of the ground and has for thousands.
cut her off.
Yeah, Natanya, go off video again. There we go. So you were saying the catch-22 is where we lost you.
I did.
The,
Sorry, I was just saying we need research to change the law, but the laws inhibit us doing the research,
right.
Yes,
right? So we need
Right,
more
right, right.
data
totally.
to prove that treatments are beneficial, except we're extremely restricted in how we can actually get the data to prove that it's absurd. And
Right,
we're not allowed to
right,
obviously use foreign examples. So it's kind of like you want to get a first job, but you need experience and you need that experience from the first job. And they say, come back when you have experience. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's really absurd. It's absurd.
Yeah.
And the
yeah,
other thing I'm
yeah,
not going to talk about is, the revenue model isn't great the way the compounds stand right now. So meaning the trials that you were talking about specifically in the with the vets and others in end of life in oncology, in the people getting to get a sense of peace facing their own mortality, like really profound stuff going on here. And either you're not allowed to talk about it or you can't get funding or, it's a really, really tough space to be in. And yet people are being healed in ways that traditional pharmaceutical SSRIs alone are just not able to do. And so I'm seeing some change and it's small. And every once in a while I see headlines
yeah.
about regulations loosening in areas, and then we also see about all the raids in other areas. So I feel like it's kind of a similar arc to cannabis, but different. But I
Mm.
have some bias on that. There's basically this backlash culturally, and that started with the counterculture movement and politics overruling science. And I don't mean to say that, but because of what you were saying before, Lisa, like it's similar in this space as well. It's sort of socio-political influence, nothing to do with what do these things do in mechanism of action within the body that could help people live a better life on this planet, build better community, heal themselves from the inside out. And it's not about being on a trip. And I think that's the biggest misnomer. And there are some companies, I'm not going to name them, I think I have before and probably got in trouble for this, who are doing unique things with the molecules such that they can create, let's say, a more
Yeah, that's
pharmaceutical
what I
like product. I have personal opinions about that are not too complimentary, because I believe you lose a lot of what is going on here by the whole experience that you honor and kind of surrender to versus, you know, come in for a few minutes, get shifted into a different headspace for a few moments, and then go be on your way. And that's a very different thing than the way these treatments are designed to be used, where the actual ingesting of the compounds and whatever they are is only a part of it. It's all about that preparatory part and then the integrative part, and using it as a whole. If you do something and it's a 10-minute experience versus a 6-hour experience, you're probably going to feel differently about it. So I don't
Yeah.
really align to this sort of like assembly line at all, but that's another topic there, I guess.
Well,
Right.
so you actually said, the corollaries to cannabis. I think it's really interesting. And I would just say, like, again, this is my, like, why can't Congress pass any laws? It's like we have kind of accepted a really crummy situation where cannabis is like pseudo legal, or rather, marijuana is pseudo legal, THC is pseudo legal, but not. And we're just kind of like living out this thing where it's not really able to be used really therapeutically. The standardization of how things are actually produced and move their way into any kind of therapeutic treatment is also really stymied still because of the treatment at the federal level, but it's like ignored slash just kind of happening. So I think the fact that the country has like accepted that this is an acceptable outcome for cannabis, for THC to be like pseudo legal, like kind of used, kind of not, like sort of has some medical pathways, has lots of recreational pathways, but still has this status at the federal level. I mean, why have we accepted that as an outcome when clearly there are benefits to cannabis, to THC, to CBD and other things, and they could be used in a more meaningful way at a medical level, but then we've accepted this like weird halfway situation. I think it's the same thing right now. We're not as far along as cannabis broadly for other types of compounds or drugs or psychedelics, but we're like moving on that path where it's going to be like pseudo legal again. I mean, it is already in some places like Oregon or whatever in other countries, but like we're moving into that place and we're accepting a pseudo legal status or something that could be really helpful for a lot of people. And that's because we can't pass any laws, I guess. But like it's
Yeah.
not
Well,
saying
it's
complain
because
about
of some
government. No,
other things. It's
pass some
because
Yeah.
laws.
it's a little lobbying. There's a little bit
Laws.
of,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of
Pass some laws.
resistance.
There's a lot of layers, and the what's in it for me isn't clear for all the usual players. There's a little bit of
Yeah.
that,
Right.
is my opinion. Again,
Right.
very clear from my opinion. But I do think that on two levels, it's a genius play and honestly an act of humanitarianism, humanitarianism in some ways, that we were able to make such headway with the veterans and the PTSD studies in psychedelics for two
Mm-hmm.
reasons. I believe, and I sent Kat, and she put it online, but luckily I don't think many people found it. I did a sort of a more mainstream news, if you will, to the masses show, with some folks about this stuff. And I said, it's a hero that risked his or her life for us, right, in this country, and they come home from a eviscerating experience, whether they were in active duty or not, either way, right? And they can't function. They can't be a husband, a wife, a parent, a worker. They can't sleep through the night. And nothing in our toolbox, and I'm not trashing pharma. I'm not. I mean, I need them. I still love you, but nothing in our toolbox really was actually healing. Okay, these people, it just is. Okay, that's the truth. No, you can argue otherwise, and maybe you can mask things. You can bring your mania down. You can, knock yourself out so you sleep through the night, but you're not dealing with things, and or they're just like Andy was saying before, we are so stretched in terms of our ability to even provide mental health professionals to
Right.
people who need
Yep.
it, regardless of
Right.
financial situation. There's just not enough. We have a doctor shortage, a nurse shortage, and obviously mental health. We have people like 4,000 cases per person. It becomes assembly line de facto. So with
Yeah.
these studies with the veterans, I feel like it's helped become honestly, the people that have reached out to me, my little dinky website crashed on Monday. I had 14,000. I mean, I could cry thinking about it. And I'm not going to out people, but even in the last couple days, people from our own mutual worlds who were like, "Oh,
Wow.
I really want to talk to you now." Because when you show like the archetype of a soldier, a hero, that honestly transcends Republican, Democrat, Tea Party, Lemonade Party. I don't care what you are, right? Like these are generally revered
Lemonade
peoples,
party.
generally
That's
revered
me.
peoples, and they were out of options and said, "I need something. Let me try this." There's, cultural and religious barriers. There's a lot of things going on here where because of the idea of losing your mind or go, the party drug idea, it's unfortunate because people drink alcohol all the time. And in this little cartoon called Strange Planet, I don't know if any of you have seen it, and they call it mild poison. Mild poison, please. And it's really funny, but I think about that all the time. Like, why is that okay? And then
Right.
this stuff that can actually give you the peace to face your death, to deal with childhood trauma, to deal with military trauma, to function, to be able to hold your child or go to work or just take a breath and lower your blood pressure and give you that lifespan and health span in the same way, that's not allowed. It's
Yeah.
just unfortunate. So I'm looking for people to get pissed off. I'm looking for people in power to get pissed off and want these things. Now, I also want to be really clear. Anything that affects your cognitive ability, whether it be alcohol, THC, MDMA, whatever, obviously things like operating machinery or motor vehicle, like we need rules, we need safety, we have to be
Yeah.
careful with things that affect your ability to function. In that way. I'm not saying like there should be no rules. I just mean in terms of if there's a treatment that can help, you should be allowed to have it. And that's my like very controversial thing that I was feeling. And now I'm getting brave enough to be like, this is what I think, and I don't know why that is so controversial, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about access, and I mean, obviously there are dangerous things out there, but safe access and the ability to try things is important. I know there's lots of discussions about this in the oncology space, end of life, and all that. But I have a very less dramatic
Mhm.
story, and that's that I have a pretty significant genetic deficiency to process vitamin B, and I was having all of these
Mm.
problems. And every doctor told me I had shortness of breath, and every doctor I went to told me that I had allergies and that my throat was swollen because I had allergies. And I went on this whole journey, and this was my LDT story: is that I received a lot of genetic testing, did all my own research, and I did have the help of a client who was a genetic counselor, and she said, you're homozygous for this pretty significant, like you cannot process any sort of artificial B vitamin. Folic acid you cannot take. You can't eat fortified cereals because it blocks your receptors. And you need to take a methylated, like basically a pre-processed form of the B vitamins. And I did that, and guess what? Within 1 week, all of those terrible, debilitating symptoms went away. And it isn't until it's 10 years since that happened. I have a blood relative who was having the same problems and did not adopt my earthy crunchy approach to solving problems. A year ago, their doctor did a genetic test on them and said, "You're homozygous for this issue. You need to take methylated B vitamins." Guess what? Problem solved. So it's like, things like this. That I mean, that isn't even a big issue, right? I mean, it was. I mean, had all kinds of anxiety problems and everything.
Solvable though.
Solvable, right? There were lots of other things I
Yeah.
probably could have theoretically done, but something like this, again, if you're a veteran, if you've served your country, if you've been through terrible things, and there's something that like is actually going to help you, you should be able to get it. 100%.
Yep.
Yeah. I do really feel strongly about, protecting kids' brains for all kinds of reasons, in particular from marijuana, which is really not safe. I'm sorry. I mean, I know it's not cool. I was also a kid in Northern California, probably might have had some brain exposure, but let me tell you, that kind of thing is not safe for
Yeah,
the levels people are accessing today.
as a
Same thing for
neuroscience
psychedelic.
person,
Yeah.
I think that I wouldn't lump them all together. I think there's a lot of compounds, pharmaceutical
Totally.
that and processed food that are
Right.
really bad for your brain, and certainly adolescent brain is a big area for me. I just did
Totally.
a panel, but I do think that these are not all the same. Some of them actually have
They're
neurogenesis,
not.
and some of them, like I said, that's why I said alcohol, like it kills brain cells. So does THC. They modify them and they affect memory. They affect REM. Like they're not magic comes with a price.
Oh.
Magic
That was
comes
exciting. That was actually probably our 2:30/5:30 call though. I think we're out of time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we are out of time. And I will say, I was told by one of my Uber drivers in Chicago this week that you don't do weed in a blue state anymore, Natanya, because it is not natural.
Yeah.
So I think, that's true.
Amazing.
Like this is like marijuana that when you're buying like 250 milligram THC random stuff off the street, like that's not
That
God's
didn't grow on the
intended use.
ground. That did not grow in the earth.
They're
That
not
grew in a
all,
lab.
they're not all the same. They're not all the same, but I did want to just like throw out one little thing, just because we were focused a lot today on mental health, and to reiterate that this isn't just mental health in terms of the exploration. There's dementia, all kinds of aging, neuroplasticity, anti-inflammatory, like a lot of other areas of exploration, specifically with psilocybin, especially because it's neurogenesis. It literally gets your brain cells to grow and improve. So you're not destroying. It's one of the only things you can put in your body that does that. So that's why I'm sort of like, if you can think of it that way, maybe you too can become an advocate. And thank you.
That's
so much.
right. So,
Thank
Natanya, I
you.
feel like both Andy and Natanya's calls to action today, Lisa, are advocate for awesome
Yes.
things. Don't get discouraged by shitty, bad press from people who, maybe have their own interests. No big deal. Or not, or it's just, it's like, it's still a stigma problem. So don't be afraid
Keep
to say
fighting
what
for
you
what
think.
you care about. We
Be
always say
like,
that.
be like the master and margarita, get around all the rules, advocate, be behemoth, drink vodka, smoke cigars. With that, God bless America.
All right.
We're done.
Bye, everyone. Bye, if you're there.
Thanks, Natanya. Thanks, Andy. Thanks,
Bye.
Melissa. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.